Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness with your luscious hostess, May Vu, broadcasting live every Monday at 12 noon Pacific Time.
Except for today. Today is Thursday, and we're broadcasting at 2 p.m. Pacific. I have a special guest with me today, and this is the only time that it worked with her schedule. So I bend the whole world to make it work for her. So before I introduce you to the giggle on the other side here, I wanted to just keep you up to date on what we're doing on Sex, Lies, and Consciousness. So much fun, and especially for today, too. At 6 o'clock tonight, in 4 hours, I am hosting a Google Hangout live talking about explosive sexual healing work. That's the fancy, therapeutic, amazing name for female ejaculation work that Ben and Jen Rode has been doing for us women. Ben and Jen Rode step into their big spiritual work in this lifetime to help women heal their sexual wounds through teaching them and helping them achieve female ejaculation. And as we learn to ejaculate, we shoot out all these traumatic lifetime wounds that we've had stored up in our vaginas and pussy and uterus and all that stuff in there. So we are gathering on Google Hangout today and to share the experience and what we got from it, what was it like, and also, what's the aftermath effect of that? How has it changed our life? So I'm so excited about that. It will be videotape, and I will post it on Sex, Lies, and Consciousness website. So stay tuned and look for that. It will be on Sex, Lies, and Consciousness in a couple of weeks. I know a lot of men out there want so much to learn to do this for your woman, and we'll talk about that too, because it's such a hot desire for you luscious men out there, and not all wives and partners are open to things like that, but hopefully as we keep educating you around this topic, that the wives would open up and let you go in there and get them to squirt. So it's all good. All right. So let's talk about today's topic. So today's topic came out of a very short and fun conversation that I had with my friend Elizabeth Carrington House. Elizabeth, say hi, honey.
Hello. Hi, May. Can I be your luscious guest since you're the luscious hostess?
You are my luscious guest, honey. And to be honest, she really is a luscious guest. She's tall, slender, nice boobies, and Anyway, Elizabeth and I have been colleagues. She's a master coach herself, and we've known each other for over 10 years now. And Elizabeth's expertise is looking at personality types through this beautiful, deep body of work called the Enneagram. So she has a workshop coming up next week, and I saw that, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about coming on my show and talk about how the personality types tie in with how we are in relationship and perhaps even in bed, like how we even do sex from this personality type perspective. And so she's like, I've never talked about that before, but that would be fun. And so here we are. So welcome, Elizabeth. Please tell them about yourself in a much more professional way, or however you want them to know about you. And then we'll dive into exploring this uncharted territory.
Okay, great. I hope the conversation we have can be somewhere near as juicy as the one you're going to have a little later. Such a compelling introduction you gave to that. Well, yeah, I have been coaching a long time, probably as long as you, May. I think 17 years now, and about a decade into my coaching work, I started to learn about the Enneagram, which is a map, a multidimensional map, really, of human behavior and consciousness, which outlines 9 different basic structures and personality types. And I found it to be such an incredible adjunct to my work as a coach, which allowed me to dive in so much more deeply with people in helping them to, really understand, have more self-awareness and more compassion for themselves, because in many ways, we're operating from unconscious patterns and habits in ourselves, which the Enneagram points to very precisely and clearly. And this,
I took your class, by the way. I don't know if you remember that, but several years ago, I actually went and took your class, and it was so fabulous. I knew a lot about it already, and I still learned so much from it for my everyday.
Yes, you're very memorable, May. Of course I remember having you there. No question about that. What's that?
Especially with my type personality, too.
Yes, you're in the assertive triad with me, yes.
Yes, there we go. So shall we just tell them about the 9 types and give them some place there, or
Sure.
Is there another place you want to go?
Nope, I think it's great that we start maybe with a foundation, and that'll give people a chance to hear and maybe recognize at least a part of themselves. And I will say what I can do is just read a little paragraph that I've written that kind of, with the intention in writing these paragraphs, my colleague and partner in teaching often, Diana Redmond, I want to give her credit too, we wrote them together, and it was really our intention to channel the essential qualities of each type. And so I guess what I want to say first is the time in our lives when we're most connected to our Enneagram type without being aware of it running us is in our 20s and early 30s. That after that point, we start to have some experiences of seeing patterns, and I know this one, and we start to maybe we go to therapy, or maybe we get a coach, or we do some workshops, or we start to have a spiritual practice, or we start to engage in some activities that start to wake us up and start to point us.
In other words, you're saying that we stop blaming the rest of the world for why things are happening and start thinking about, hey, maybe I could be the common denominator about this whole thing.
Exactly.
As Dr. Phil had said one time on Oprah, you are the common denominator. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Phil, right? Yeah, there is that part of us that wants to reject it, and there's a part of us that is a bit relieved by, at least if I'm the common denominator, I can have some power here to do something, So
that's right.
Yeah, it's the good news. Good news. So I guess that's the thing. So as we go through the 9 types, I guess the other thing that's important to know is that although we all have one main type that we'll have throughout our lives that stays with us, we go through little windows where we think we're over it, but then it comes back, and we get healthier and healthier, hopefully, over the course of our lives, and get higher levels of awakeness and presence to our type, so it doesn't run us as much, but it's always with us. And in addition to the main type, we have a couple of others that we will have a relationship with as well. So as we go through the 9 types, and you're listening for, is that me? Oh, I recognize that one. But then I also recognize this part of me in another one. It's not unusual. So as you're listening, you'll probably relate with at least 3 that you'll think, I can really relate with those well. And
awesome.
Then the other thing that's important is that we have all of the 9 types in us, to some extent, that we can recognize them all. It's just that there's one that's our central core that we have been born with, you could say, and will be with us all of our life.
All right, I'm ready.
Are you ready? Okay,
yep.
Here we go. So let's just start with type 1.
Yay.
So type 1 is called the perfectionist or the improver or the moral person. So type 1, I like to think of myself as conscientious, hardworking, reliable, and a person with high standards, a person of integrity. Some tell me I'm a perfectionist, and I can understand that because I do like things to be done a certain way. I can get very frustrated with others' lack of attention to detail and commitment to doing the right thing. Sometimes people are so irresponsible and inappropriate. In most cases, I do think there's a better way to do things, and I have a gut sense of that. I'm aware of what isn't as good as it could be, about what I haven't done well, what others haven't done properly, what needs to be done and isn't being done. As a result, there's always more to change, to improve. If you really want to know what I see, just ask me. I'm a natural-born teacher. People often appreciate my efforts, but sometimes they tell me I'm too judgmental or critical. This feedback is hard for me to hear. I really don't like to be criticized or corrected. I don't think anyone would believe how hard I am on myself already. Frustration can be a common experience, as I tend to feel it is my responsibility to fix what's not working, and there is much that needs to be made right. If only the world was as glorious, perfect, and wonderful as I know it can be. So our ones have this wonderful sense of idealism, and they really have a sense of what can be perfect in a good sense and what can be really right in the highest sense and what's really, truly good. And sometimes they can become preoccupied with this in a very tight and tense way and be very critical. But at the essence of them is this real knowing about what's good, true, and right in the world. And that's a beautiful gift.
It is. Unfortunately, when the one gets triggered and come out a lot, they can be really hard. It's, my interpretation of one is like, what an asshole, or Jesus Christ, do we have to follow that one rigid thing? Can you take your stick out of your ass kind of thing? And so it's, in the heat of the moment, I could so see how the ones are so misunderstood and not being recognized for what they're trying to do. So they just look like they're nitpicking.
Yes. Yep, we both have the gift side of us, the contribution, and the challenging side of us. And the challenging side of us drives a lot of people crazy, and the gift side of us can light people up. It's like we're the full spectrum.
I remember teaching a workshop with a one, and she was more senior than me. And I swear to you, in the first half an hour, she walked around and readjust the chairs a tiny little inch for 27 chairs. I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that she was looking at beauty and orderly, and that's what she was giving it to the space. I was like, it's done, dude. Let's move on.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The joke is they're rearranging the chairs on the Titanic before it goes down. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah. So, should we go on to 2, or you want to talk about some guesses about one in bed?
Let's do that. That's fun. Yeah, or in relationship, like how does one sees relationship or in bed?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many different. It's hard to just synopsize anyone, and we're so multifaceted. So I don't know about I don't know about, this whole thing about in bed is really, I don't know anyone that talks about this. So it's really kind of edgy and unusual, and it's kind of me shooting from the hip, really. So I haven't had that much research time.
Wait, here we go. Just for the theme for today is about female ejaculation. So we're just going to shoot from our hip or our vagina. It doesn't really matter. Just shoot away. But, it's all made up anyway, and it's fun. And really, I want to invite people to get to know their personality type, and if we can make it fun for them to get to know. And, if there's 1% of usefulness, that's all I'm looking for.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's just say that my sense of the one is that there's a tightness often and some aspect toward repressing and trying to control their desires and do the right thing. And that can be very stressful to the body and to, that create tension in the muscles in the body, right? So
I also wonder, too, if a one would have a hard time with making messes on the bed.
Right. Not being neat and tidy.
Right? I mean, that's a lot of mess. Good sex is messy. That's my motto.
Good sex is messy. That's right. That's a good bumper sticker.
And I wonder, too, if one needs to have the lights turn out, I don't know, but it's like, what about the perfection and the imperfection of the body and that kind of stuff? How would that play to that?
That's right. There could be a lot of consciousness around that. What the ones have going for them is they're part of the instinctual triad of the body center, of which you are one as well, right? So they have their connection to their instinctual bodily energy when they're relaxed and open. So they can be also, on one side, very shut down and controlled and trying to, repress their urges. On the other hand, they have this capacity to be very connected to their instinctual body, lusty energy.
Ah, interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever been with a one, so I can't tell, but that's kind of very intriguing about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's talk two, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. So, because we got 9 to cover. So, the Enneagram Style 2 is called the helper or the giver. So, here's the 2. Mainly, I'm interested in connection and being kind and loving. And I have lots of energy for that. I mean, isn't that why we're here? To take care of and support one another? I don't want to sound conceited, but I excel at that, I must admit. I can sense what others need almost better than they can. Sometimes I think if someone would care for me as well as I take care of others, I'd have it made. But that's a selfish thought. My goal, my gift is in giving and helping, and I derive incredible satisfaction from that. It's how I find fulfillment. True, sometimes if my efforts aren't noticed or appreciated, I can get snippy. All I need is for you to tell me what you love and appreciate about my efforts and to acknowledge them. Then we're good. Indeed, people call me sensitive and empathetic, and I think that's true. I've always been that way, even as a child.
Well, I would imagine that, I just went to bed already. I'm like, God, I would just imagine that having a male lover as a one would be really good because he would probably pay a lot of attention to my body.
Are you talking about a 2?
Yeah.
The helper? Yeah.
Right? I
lover,
mean,
lover.
If someone is so empathetic and so into pleasing another person, it could feel really good if they're, paying attention and doing it to please me rather than to themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. Really right. There's an image of the puppy dog licking,
Oh, there you go. We'll make up a story that one might be good down there.
There you go. You never know. That lover, helper, giver could be very wonderful in the bedroom.
Yeah, and I also wondered too. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to see the rightness about this. Like a 2 could be. Like, even as a woman, she'll probably be the one that gives good head.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. She'll want to do a really good job. The challenge, of course, is in the fulfillment of giving to them because their big edge is around receiving. So it's, being with someone who's a giver is wonderful until they're not ready to stop giving. And then it's like, all right already, how about, surrendering and relaxing?
Receive. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or they could create a very one-sided relationship where they give all the time, and if they pair up with a personality like me, who's more stronger and more of a taker personality, it could just be all about me and not about them, and eventually there'll be resentment.
Absolutely right. And if sex isn't about reciprocity, I don't know what is, right? So that could be a setup.
Yeah, well, not to an 8. 8 doesn't have to reciprocate.
We haven't gotten there yet. Don't tell all your secrets. Let's do me next.
Okay, let's do you.
All right, here we go. I don't know how objective I'll be able to be, but we'll give it a shot. All right, the Enneagram Style 3 is called the achiever or the performer. So I'm on it, you'll often hear me say, because I am. In my worldview, life often seems like an endless list of to-dos, and more than anyone else I know, I have the ability to check off my list with the best of them. I have been called an accomplishment machine, and I can see why. I am usually very busy and rarely take a break to catch my breath. It's like I have this inner drive that compels me to keep moving, doing, and getting things done. But I'm grateful for that drive because it has helped me become very successful at almost anything I want to achieve. Sure, it would probably be good to learn how to slow down and turn my drive down, but I don't know who I'd be if I wasn't moving, doing, and accomplishing all the time. Don't tell anyone, but honestly, that sort of bothers me. I have a hard time just sitting on the couch without jumping up to do one more thing. People say I'm competitive, and I guess I am, but I don't usually think of it that way. I just want to be the best at whatever I do, and I know I can, as I am capable and confident. I do have a bit of weakness for wanting to impress others and have them think well of me, and I guess you could say that I work it pretty well in a room, but doesn't everyone? I mean, who doesn't want others to respect and admire them?
I'm so curious to see how you are at dating then. Like, how long does it take for you to get ready for a date?
Have to look so perfect and beautiful, and
right,
yeah.
exactly. And then
There's
are you
definitely...
into cuddles?
Into what?
Cuddles.
Cuddles?
Yeah, because you're always on the go. So I'm like, oh, how are you with cuddling then? I wonder.
Oh, yeah, I'm a champ cuddler. I think because it's like a counterbalance to my revving that's always going on in my neurological system. You know, it's like boom, boom, boom. And then touch just quiets me down.
Oh, so a 3 really needs a lot of touch to help you calm down and let go of all that working.
Yeah, well, they need something. For some, it's touch. For some, it's I mean, I'm so touch-oriented. I know not all 3s are as touch-oriented as I am, but they need something to counterbalance the busy machine. So they could take up painting, or they could do something, be a runner, or do something that gets them more in their body. Something to counterbalance all of the intensity of their driving, pushing, moving forward into the world energy.
Fascinating. And then what's it like to be in relationship with a 3? Since you're here, I can interview you. So
yeah.
What do you like about partners, and what gets you frustrated with people?
Well, every match is very different, right? But I certainly have a hurry up, let's get on it, let's decide, let's make things happen in me in partnership, and certainly people that have been with me can attest to that, some of them for better, most for worse. It's like, come on, how about now? Can we do something now? So there is that push, and I think, as I mentioned, there's many different ways to triad up the Enneagram to break into groups of 3, and so this is the assertive triad is the 3, 7, and 8, and they have a generally challenging time with intimacy because their orientation is out toward the world, making things happen, getting things done, moving out, and then the softer, vulnerable sweetness often gets covered over, and as a pattern, they kind of think that that's not there, and it takes a while for them to really get in touch with that tenderness. That's been true for me, and really finding what has me feel safe and secure and solid in opening up deeply to someone. And I'm not saying opening up because the 3 would open up like the image of what they know it looks like to open up.
Right, yep.
But the real deal, has been a long journey.
I can't help but share myself in here, I'm just like, opening up is just such a bitch. I've had people say, you kidding? You think you're open? I'm like, I feel like a wide open place with, wind blowing right through because all the windows are open. And they're like, no, honey, you're really hard to get in. And like, how many times do we hug? I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Yeah, that's just too much fun.
It's humbling to see the perspective from the other side, yes.
That's right. I'm like, really? You want in more than that? Come on.
Right. What is that even,
Yeah. All right. How about we do 4s?
Okay, let's talk about 4. So 4s are called our romantics, our individualist, the original person. Who am I? What gives meaning and purpose to life? These are a few of the questions that consume me, that I must understand and answer. Don't bother me with the mundane, with the common. I seek passionately and deeply to understand why I'm here. I want to know myself to the depths, and often I feel that it'll never happen because something is missing, or worse, there's something intrinsically wrong with me. Others seem so clear about who they are, and their life seems to be so perfect. Sometimes I'm envious of them, and I spend a lot of time wondering why I feel so lost on my own path in life. I know I have gifts and that I possess something unique, something special. But I don't think anyone, including myself, has really seen the real me in all my glory. I yearn for that. You might say that I'm overly sensitive or dramatic. I do have a lot of melancholy, but please don't ask me to conform. The ordinary is my death knell. I long for deep, authentic connection with others and with myself. I sometimes have difficulty appreciating present relationships as I long for what could be better. So let me live. Let me feel. Feelings tell me that I'm alive and real.
I find that a lot of my friends could get so lost in this deep place. Is that true? I mean, like, it just seems like my observations of some friends, they just have this tendency that just goes so deep they can't find their way back up.
Yes, it's a roller coaster of internal emotions on a minute-to-minute basis often for the 4. And they are searching for that, and they can get lost there.
And how do they know when they're just being a 4 versus when they're depressed?
Well, they probably would be able to distinguish it. They have an incredible sense of discernment around they're experts on emotions because they spend so much of their energy and time there. And so my guess is, and my experience of many 4s is that they have many experiences of being in the melancholy place or being in the dark, depressed place, and they know when they're in it and they know when they're not in it. They have a refined sense of their own, for me, my emotions started out as like happy, sad, glad. It was like very gross, right? Like, okay, what am I in this moment? For a 4, it's like, well, I have a touch of this with a dash of that. Really, like so precise. So I think they would really know the difference.
I see. Okay.
These are like I think of the 4s as the consummate lovers. They're so their hearts are so affectable, and they're so looking for depth and intimacy and connection and contact and passionate. They have this sense of this, what they want is this ideal relationship. They often have this fantasy, which can get in their way, actually, but they're just so oriented toward finding that special, perfect one. So they're very oriented toward being lovers.
Well, I'm thinking of someone particularly, and this person he's a 3 and with a 4 wings, I think, and it seems like, oh my, that's kind of like, that's a really amazing combo because the 4 really balances his striving stuff down.
Yes.
Yeah. And have him to feel, and he's very easy 3 to work with because he's so available emotionally. And at the same time, there is a sense, like a double whammo perfection thing that he's seeking for. Partnerships are never good enough for him because, there's always something better, or, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering about that, the challenge of that, and being, especially in relationship and in bed with a 4, you might feel not good enough if they're, in that pattern. Yeah,
like they're comparing you to the ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right.
It doesn't have to be verbal. It can just be really subtle, and it's like, why do I feel not good enough in your eyes?
Yeah, they're carrying around some internal fantasy, idealized idea of the perfect partner, and no one ever measures up to that. So, if you're picking up on that subtle energy, you're probably right. And what you say about the 3 with the 4 wing is a very interesting combination, because there is that putting out there into the world their energy, and then this softness that can complement that push, that can make them very much more accessible, because for the 3, the heart is their challenging territory. And so, yes, the 4 is so much heart. It really has a nice balance there.
Yeah, really nice. And that's what this person has, and I'm just like, wow, anyway, it's just been really fun knowing him, and it's just, and hearing some of his relationship stuff, I just kind of like, it just kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh, that's maybe what's happening. Interesting.
Yes.
So that's the 4. And
that's the 4.
And somehow I just kind of imagined the 4 would be the one that sits there and paint you. I have that image.
Yeah, they're oozing with creativity. Oftentimes they're expressed in their arts. That can be an avenue of their expression. They can write poetry. They can paint. They can bring their creativity. It's like they have a creative way of living, and creativity is one of their highest values. Creativity and beauty. So they're wanting to create the world in a beautiful place. They're wanting also to this sense of their own unique, special inner beauty. They're wanting to put in the world around them, in their own space, in their clothes. They're wanting a unique expression of their own wardrobe, of their work. Everything wants to be uniquely and creatively expressed.
Wow. Wow. How is that different than a 1 then, in that sense?
Well, there's creativity is imperfect and messy, and so it doesn't have to be a certain way. Ones are wanting to get things right. 4s are wanting to create beauty.
I see. Okay. So they may be meticulous, it's just differently.
Yes, 4s are aesthetically meticulous.
I see. Okay. Yeah, so like I could just see, I could just see that. If you have a partner who's a 4 and all this deep love that he takes you into it, and then the relationship break up and you're looking around for the next person and nobody could measure to that depth and the romanticism and the depth and the poetry that he would write for you or the painting that he made for you, right? I mean, that's just a huge letdown. For the rest of the world.
Well, you could have felt that way for 10 years in the relationship. They were never quite the one you longed for. They were never quite the one you imagined in your mind. And you might have been suffering for 10 years in the relationship because they were always falling short of that idealized partner.
Yeah.
And then you could suffer for the next 10 years in looking back and longing for what could have been, so there's there can be a lot of suffering and longing that goes in the world for 4. Yeah.
Excellent. All righty then. Let's see.
Right.
Let me just take a quick break, and then we will resume with number 5.
Great.
Is your marriage or relationship in crisis? Where one partner wants to expand into their sex and bring scary changes to the relationship, while the other partner is dug in, protective, and saying, "No way in hell is this going to happen?" May knows this place well, and she can help both sides. She is truly amazing. Learn more about her specialty, crisis coaching for couples and individuals, at sexliesandconsciousness.com.
Okay, I'm back, and I have with me my friend Elizabeth Carrington House. I love your name, by the way. It just has such an elegant ring to it. And she's here sharing her expertise about the personality types, the Enneagram, and we're adding a little twist to it. Like, we are making hypotheses and guesses and projections and misconstrued, ideology about how these types would show up in bed or in relationship with each other. So carry on, Elizabeth. Let's talk about type number 5.
Sounds good. All right. Type 5 is called the observer or the thinker. Type 5. I don't like to talk about myself that much, but if I had to sum it up, I'd say I'm smart, innovative, and focused. I love to learn and am almost always compulsively curious about all kinds of different things. I thrive on understanding what I study and not just skimming the surface. I can spend hours, and in some cases decades, delving into the depths of something that fascinates me. Some people think I'm a little over the top in my passion for learning, but that's just the way I've always been. I am voraciously curious and have a strong drive to understand the complexities of how things work. In a way, my knowledge and perspicacity gives me a feeling of safety and security, and that must be important to me. I wouldn't consider myself much of a people person. I definitely need lots of time on my own and a place that is just for me. Too many demands on my time and energy overwhelm me, and I withdraw. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to deal with as many people as I do. I'd be happy to spend much of my time on my own, although I will say a part of me knows connection with others is important. So very different orientation. We've just segued into the head center triad, by the way. So the 5 is the first of the head center types and do spend a lot of time from the neck up taking in knowledge, facts, information, data, learning, studying, being fascinated by understanding how things work, and just in general delving deeply into the mysteries of life.
I recently went to see this guy speak in San Francisco. His name is Reid Mihalko. he is a sex educator, and one of the things he's so fun and really great. I highly recommend him if anybody hear of him, and where he travels a lot to teach his stuff. So go see him. Anyway, so one of the things he said that was so powerful, Elizabeth, was we need to know our relationship personality. And some of us, so he doesn't use these numbers or anything like that. I don't even know where he came up with this thing, but I think it's from his own living life large, the way he does it. And he's like, some people like the monogamy thing where you and me, baby, for the rest of our life, we're against the world. Great, that makes them happy. And then other people like, I got to have the you and me thing, but once I have that you and me, I'm ready to look outward, and now I need another someone out there. That's kind of more like me. And then there's someone like him where he said he's like a dolphin. I like to live in a herd. I love lots of people around me. I love it when everybody's swimming in the same direction. We're all communicating. We're all sexing together. We all have, and communications that's clean and clear, and everybody knows what everybody's doing and all that stuff. And that's what makes me happy. And then there's the other personality where they're the lone wolf, where they need to have time alone. And, they're great to a certain point, and then it's like they got to just like their partner needs to go. So Reed's partner is a lone wolf. So his primary is a lone wolf. So it works really well for them because he would spend the one-on-one time with her, and it's all wonderful, and then it's too much for her. She needs him to get out, go away, and then he go and spend time with his dolphins, and you get to, play and have sex with them and all this wonderful stuff, and she's happy because she has her alone time, and he's happy because he has his dolphin time, and it works for them. I just think that is so beautifully said and beautiful demonstration of what relationship could be. And I think about what you just said now, being the 5 and the loner, needing that alone time. I'm like, maybe that type of relationship profile is like a 5 would need.
Yeah, I think it's so great what you said. I think it's so important to know who we are in relationship and know what works for us, and to try different modalities and different contexts and different paradigms to see, wouldn't it be great to have a class on that going through school, where people can really say, this one is real. I'm really drawn to this one. I'm like the dolphin, rather than the one that society tries to program us with, which is type A, being the one who you just get married and live happily ever after. And that actually clearly doesn't work for many people.
We both know that, don't we, Elizabeth?
We do. I'm not a type A. I'm not a type B. I've heard it a little differently. Mine was from a rabbi who'd married 5,000 people or something in his 50 years career. He said there's 3 types. One is the happily ever after lifelong partner, works for about a third of the people. Then there's the second type, which is like the serial relationship people. And then there's the third type that's the lone. Basically, he said they don't have any business being in a relationship. That's not their main path. So they're in, they're out there. But it's not on their radar as a primary thing. And I thought, that is so great, again, to know what's your right path so you can honor yourself. Isn't that what we're here trying to do?
Yeah. And do you have a clue on which one you are yet?
Yeah, I'm B.
You're B, so you're a serial
lover.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that too. What I liked about what Reed said, it opened up to this other territory that I didn't know was allowed. It was like, what? You can live in a clump with a clump of people, and you can do that, right? Wow, that's really amazing. Anyway,
we get to make it up.
That's right.
I love people that give us more freedom to really get that we get to make it up.
That's right. All right. How about 6?
Okay, 6. 6 is our skeptic, our troubleshooter, sometimes also called the loyalist. It's hard to describe myself, really, but people say I'm dependable, thoughtful, trustworthy, and a good team player. I'm motivated by my need and desire for others to feel safe and secure. So I pay attention to potential danger or hazards, things that could go wrong. I watch for them and devise strategies to protect against them. I'm well prepared in that sense. Often, when the path forward isn't clear, I can become anxious and indecisive, seeking the opinions of others, sometimes valuing them more than my own. Usually I'm best at playing defense, although I sometimes take the offense to limit potential threats, meeting them head-on without fear. Loyalty is also big for me. I don't trust easily or automatically, particularly people in positions of authority. I am always assessing whether or not others are trustworthy. It's just plain smart. If you do earn my trust, I have your back, and my support is solid and consistent. Same with organizations. I might challenge the leadership to determine if they are the real thing, but again, when I find an organization or a cause that is dependable, I'm committed. People say I have a good sense of humor, and I can make light of myself. This helps me a lot when I get into difficult spots. Yeah.
I have a girlfriend who just broke up with her boyfriend because she found out he's been lying to her all along, like the whole personality, all the way down to where he lived. It's been a lie.
Wow.
And yesterday, because I bought that book, Are You My Type, Am I Yours? And we looked at that briefly, and they talk about the 6, and that was the one personality that resonated the most with her. And it's like, oh my gosh, now that you just said that, I'm like, for a 6, that's even worse than that for her, because loyalty and trustworthiness is everything to her.
Yes.
And it was so cool to watch her go through that, because once she found out, it was a very clear, I'm done, I'm out. There was no pain, there's no drama, there's nothing. It was such a clear bottom line for her that she was ready, done. This is not negotiable.
Yes, betrayed.
Yeah, exactly. I can see other type could be wounded by it or blah, blah, blah. She was so clear with that. It was great.
Yeah, trust and betrayal is a lifelong theme that 6s work in their lives with, and it's a no, done. You've lost my trust, done. That can be very, very clear.
And
it's a heartbreak, on some level. It's also a heartbreak.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting that she would manifest that in her life, like, because she's working through that issue, right? So I'm just kind of like seeing the dots connecting. I'm like, wow, it's fascinating, because I don't know, I've never manifested that, and I don't know, it's just not something that in my ether.
Yep.
So,
not the issues not the themes you're working with.
No, definitely not the theme I'm working on. We'll get to the theme I'm working on.
We'll get to yours, yeah. We got the big finale coming up here. If you're going to stop listening, don't do it now.
That's right. Me and my boyfriend's relationship and my ex-husband will be the last part of the show.
Exactly.
We didn't plan it that way, but that's kind of funny. All right, let's get done with the 7 so we can get
so we can get to you. All right. So the enthusiast or the joyful person, the 7. I have a sense of boundless possibility. I'm optimistic, enthusiastic, upbeat, and I live for new experiences and opportunities. Others think that I'm constantly planning for the future, but my plans are mere sketches. Rather, I anticipate. I constantly think of what could be, might be, that which might bring joy and freedom to my life. And in the process, I avoid anything that might limit my options. And because I don't want to miss out on anything that might be glorious and exciting, my plate is always full. My calendar is often double booked. I have lots of energy and enjoy starting new projects, but implementing them, doing the nitty-gritty, can be a challenge, especially when doing so becomes tedious or boring. So I prefer to let others finish things. I'm happy creating, and I have the wonderful ability to think big, to see connections that others do not. One thing I'm clear about is that I never want to lose my sense of freedom. Therefore, commitment can seem tantamount to death. So if you join me in exploring new possibilities and don't get stuck in painful or unpleasant emotions or experiences, we'll get along just fine. Life is supposed to be enjoyed. Let's put our energy in the right direction.
Okay, you know what? We could start talking about me now, because I have a very strong 7 wings, so I'm really that explains the other part of me. That explains everything.
Yes. I
constantly tell my poor boyfriend, honey, let's open our relationship up. Let's bring more people in here. Let's enjoy. Let's learn about what that takes to love like that, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, not in this lifetime.
More possibilities, more experiences, more potential. Come on.
Please, come on. And I double book my calendar all the time. And it's like, once I'm done coming, I'm like, I'm ready to move on to the next fun thing.
Yep. There you go. Healthy dose of seven wing.
That's right.
Lots of fun, lots of enthusiasm, and it can be a short-lived conversation, because then it's the next possibility, you know. I have a friend who talks about being on her honeymoon in Venice, you know, and she's already planning her next trip to Australia. It's like she wasn't in Venice for very long, you know. That's the downside, you know. It's like, stay where you are, keep your feet here. So.
That could be so exhausting. Now that is not me. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be really exhausting. I do like just to be where I am. That's good enough.
Thank God. Thank God you've got the 8 to ground you, yes.
That's right.
Okay.
It's like, oh no, honey, we're not going to fill up the whole calendar with activities and hikes and all that stuff. It's okay to just chill right here. Good,
yes. Amen.
Yep. What else about 7 that we need to talk about?
Well, I think I would imagine they're wonderfully adventurous between the sheets and very open to new possibilities and new positions and new ways of doing things, and open to the potential of the human body and sexuality and sensuality and tantric possibility. Who knows? The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So if their attention is there, they can just be the most adventurous lovers. And if you're up for an adventure, I think, 7 could be fun.
I'm so glad you said that, because, right, that could be so natural for them, and I could so relate to that because I have such a strong 7 wing, and I could see someone like a 6 where that would be much more conservative, and they have to test out to see if the space is all safe, and can we trust these people? Are you sure we can do all that? That takes away from like a big sex party kind of environment. It would be harder for someone like a 6 or a 1 or whatever,
or 5, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're a 7 partner with a 5, that could be really challenging.
Yes.
Wait,
it could
actually,
be.
you know what? Let me see. I want to flip to that page and where they talk. This is very brief, but they talk about, like, since we're at the 7, so I'm just going to do the 7 complaints about a 5. That's kind of interesting. All right, here we go. This is what 7 says about a 5. I like 5s because they are unconventional, interesting, and knowledgeable in many areas, have an inner strength that I admire, have consuming interest and understand my need to pursue mine, and are good models on how to concentrate on one thing at a time, and they don't tug at me. And then I have trouble with 5s because they are less interested in new adventures than I am. They can be happy doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
May, the connection just got a little garbled.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that.
Can you hear me okay? Well, this is interesting. Now we're going to be communicating in Braille. Okay, I'm going to read next about our Type 8, which is fascinatingly our amazing luscious hostess type. So Type 8, called the leader, the boss, sometimes called the affectionate tank. Type 8. People say that I'm bold, strong, decisive, and sometimes a bull in a china shop. Well, I definitely wouldn't call myself delicate or touchy-feely, and weak is not in my vocabulary. I'm direct, honest, and forthcoming, and look for the same in others. Everyone expects me to be the strong one, the rock, and I am. At the same time, I've been called a Mack truck filled with marshmallows, and that's not far from the truth. I protect those I care about, but don't have much time for people who don't put out the effort. I always make sure people are treated fairly and justly, especially those that can't stand up for themselves. I can hold my own in any situation, and I'm glad I'm so capable. I make things happen. I'm assertive, and I like to take the lead, so I often find myself in charge, the boss. I've been told that I'm too much sometimes.
All the way to the end.
That's you.
So I don't think Elizabeth can hear me, and I hope you all can hear me.
I can hear you now.
And hey, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah, Skype and Blog Talk Radio kicked me out, but that's just the way internet radio goes.
Oh, really?
I know. I just, there's nothing I can do about it other than trying to get back on as fast as I can, and it doesn't show. Anyway, whatever. So I was just saying is that how, as a type 8, it's so important for me to be engaged physically and emotionally. So, like, I like rough sex. There's a reason, because I'm an 8.
Yes, you want to be met.
Exactly. And when I'm not met, I feel really hungry. Like, I don't have something I can trust right here. And it's fun, and pain is good, and tidy up, and that kind of stuff is really, like, fun and exciting and opening doorways to an 8 with a big 7 wings kind of thing.
Yeah. Lust and adventure in one wonderful package.
Exactly. And since we only have 3 more minutes left, why don't we just skip 9? Sorry, you have to come to Elizabeth's teleclass and learn about that. Will you just tell them about your upcoming teleclass? Because I think it's such an important thing that people can join if they want to.
Sure. Yep. So there's 2 ways you can learn more if you'd like. One is to get a typing session with me, which takes about an hour and a half, and I'm happy to offer a discount to your listeners of 20% off of my usual rate. So that's one next step that's possible. Another next step that's possible would be a foundational understanding of the whole system and most people through that find their own type, and they also learn the types of many of their friends and loved ones and kids and spouse, etc. So that's starting next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for an hour and a half, 7 consecutive Tuesdays, and that's by a teleconference.
That's big. And what would they learn from that?
They would learn a whole bunch of things, but one of them is they would learn the tricks of the personality, which in this system not only does it describe the personality, but it also describes our essential nature, our true nature, and the personality, how it covers that over. So there's a great distinction that people will come away with their essential nature versus their personality structure. But then there's also so much about the childhood, the perspective of the child, kind of growing up with that structure and understanding how that impacts their lives, and then hopefully a whole big dose of compassion for themselves and other people as well. When I learned the Enneagram, I haven't seen the world the same since, and it's been a much more gentle and heartful place that I can come from, because I understand that all people are running off of a similar, different, but all similarly in the sense of run by their personality structures in large extent until they learn about them and have a little more freedom from them.
Yeah, and I know we started on this journey just from a clever idea of let's make a fun show and tie it in with sex and relationship. And as we talked about it, I got, like you said, so much more compassion and understanding, and I'm like, I want all my clients to get that type done so that they know who they are and how they operate and what turns them on, and then they can also know who they're matched with so that they know how to work with that person. So,
yes.
How do they get a hold of you, honey?
You can just email me. My email is ECH for Elizabeth Carrington House Coach @gmail.com, or my phone is 978-468-4568.
Do that number again.
978-468-4568.
Great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with us today. Sorry for the little internet hiccup there, but
worries.
I think we got the point across, and I hope you all are out there enjoying the type that you are and the type that you're with, and find ways to love and appreciate each other for the gifts that you bring. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.